On the morning of June 1st, 1985, Howard Storm, a 38-year-old professor of art and head of the art department at Northern Kentucky University, was finishing a European tour with his students. Storm was known among colleagues and students as intelligent, confident, and outspokenly atheist. By his own admission, he had built his life on ambition and self-sufficiency, dismissing faith as superstition. "I was a materialist and an intellectual snob," he later told interviewers. "I thought religion was for weak people." That day in Paris, Storm suddenly doubled over in excruciating pain. He later learned his stomach had perforated, a rare but life-threatening event in which the stomach wall tears, spilling its acidic contents into the abdominal cavity and triggering severe infection, peritonitis. His wife, Beverly, who was traveling with him, rushed for help. Students called emergency services. By the time French doctors evaluated him, his body was going into shock. Surgery was needed immediately, but it was the weekend and the hospital was understaffed. Hours passed as he writhed on a gurney, realizing he was growing weaker. At some point late that afternoon, Storm felt himself slipping away. "I knew I was dying," he wrote in My Descent into Death. "Every moment the pain was worse and I could feel life draining from me." Finally, his heart stopped. The medical staff later told him he was clinically dead for about 10 minutes before resuscitation. What Storm reports happened during those minutes would challenge everything he believed. Conscious beyond the body. Storm's first sensation was awareness, not nothingness. "I was standing next to the bed, looking at myself lying there," he recalled. His mind felt sharper than ever. He could hear the room, see his wife weeping, yet his own body lay motionless. Then came voices. Gentle at first, beckoning from the hallway outside the hospital room. "Howard, come with us." "We've been waiting. Hurry, this way." Storm felt an urgent pull to follow. He stepped into a misty corridor. The light grew dimmer the farther he walked. The group ahead, indistinct human-like figures, seemed impatient. At first they spoke kindly, encouraging him to keep up, but as they moved deeper into the darkness, the tone shifted. Their comments became mocking, then cruel. The corridor seemed endless and cold. "I realized something was terribly wrong," Storm said in interviews. "They were leading me somewhere I didn't want to go." Descent into terror. The mood turned suddenly violent. The figures surrounded him, attacking with a savagery beyond anything he had known. "They began tearing at me like wild animals," Storm wrote, page 13. "They bit me, they clawed me, they ridiculed me." The pain was beyond imagination. He tried to fight back but was overpowered and dragged further into darkness. The being seemed to relish his fear. Storm describes this place as hellish. Not flames and pitchforks, but a realm of utter hopelessness, cruelty, and despair. There was no light, no compassion, only isolation and malice. For the first time in his life, Storm, the intellectual skeptic, felt he had entered a realm of profound evil. "I had thought death was nothingness," he later said. "Instead, I found myself in a nightmare that was terrifyingly real." A faint memory, a desperate cry. In that abyss, beaten and torn, Storm reached a breaking point. He thought of his childhood in a mainline Protestant church. Songs he hadn't sung in decades. One melody surfaced. "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so." Though he had long rejected God, in sheer desperation he shouted, "Jesus, save me!" That cry, a raw, uncalculated plea, changed everything. Light in the darkness. Instantly, a brilliant light pierced the black void. Warmth flooded the space. Storm describes a presence entering, not merely light, but alive, intelligent, and overwhelmingly loving. "Out of that darkness came a brilliant light," he wrote, page 18. "Arms reached for me. I was lifted and held in love beyond measure." The hostile beings shrieked and scattered, powerless against the radiance. Storm felt himself drawn upward, away from despair and into safety, embraced by unconditional love. The being who rescued him was not a vague glow. Storm perceived it as Jesus Christ, and though at the time he was stunned, having denied Jesus for decades. He embraced me. Every bit of pain vanished. I was flooded with joy and security, Storm said. The love he felt was unlike anything on earth, unconditional, personal, and utterly overwhelming. In that light, a life review began. Every action, word, and even thought from his life played out before him. He saw himself through the lens of love and truth, his selfishness, arrogance, and the ways he had hurt others. But instead of condemnation, the presence showed sorrowful compassion. In his light, I saw everything I had done, Storm wrote. He did not condemn me. Instead, his love exposed me, and he asked, "What have you done with the life I gave you?" This question cut deeper than any accusation. Storm realized how empty his life's pursuits, career, recognition, ego, looked in the face of eternal love. He also sensed he was known completely and still loved. Glimpses of a greater reality. While details vary among retellings, Storm has described being shown glimpses of heavenly realms, places radiant with beauty, peace, and creativity beyond imagination. Some accounts mention him seeing beings of light communicating telepathically, sharing knowledge and love. He felt no fear, only wonder and belonging. The presence also explained spiritual truths in ways he says were downloaded directly into his understanding. That God is love, that life's purpose is to grow in love, and that our actions toward others truly matter. Storm says he understood that human life is a precious opportunity, and that rejecting love leads to isolation. Sent back to live differently. Eventually, Storm begged to remain in this place of safety and joy, but the presence told him gently yet firmly that it was not his time. You still have work to do. You must live differently. Storm protested. He wanted to stay in love's embrace, but the decision was made. The moment ended abruptly, and he awoke back in his hospital bed, gasping for air. Doctors had revived him. His wife later said his face looked changed, softer, calmer. Inside, he knew he could never return to his old worldview. A radical life change. Howard Storm's recovery was difficult. He required surgery and weeks of medical care, but the deeper transformation was spiritual. The man who had lived 38 years as an atheist became a devout Christian. Within months, he and his wife joined a church. Eventually, Storm left his tenured professorship to become a United Church of Christ pastor. He spent decades sharing his story publicly, on television programs, in churches, and through his book My Descent into Death. Doubleday, 2000. Unlike some sensational accounts, Storm's tone has remained humble and reflective. He emphasizes love over fear, saying his message is not about hellfire, but about hope and second chances. Jesus is real. He is love, Storm told interviewers. He gave me another chance, and he can give you one too. Near-death experiences. Storm's account is part of a much larger body of research into near-death experiences, events reported by people revived after clinical death or extreme trauma. Near-death experiences often include features like leaving the body, traveling through darkness or a tunnel, encountering a light or loving presence, and undergoing a life review. Studies by researchers such as Dr. Raymond Moody, Life After Life, and Dr. Bruce Grayson at the University of Virginia have cataloged thousands of such cases. While skeptics argue near-death experiences can be explained by brain chemistry during trauma, others point to their consistency across cultures and the lasting personality changes in those who experience them, including reduced fear of death and greater empathy. Howard Storm's story is striking because of his strong, prior atheism and his dramatic life transformation afterward, something NDE researchers note as common, but especially pronounced in his case. Storm's message today. Decades later, Storm continues to speak about his experience. In interviews, he emphasizes several lessons he believes are universal. Life's true purpose is love. Careers, status, and possessions ultimately mean little compared to how we treat others. We are deeply known. Every thought and action matters. Nothing is hidden from the divine. Hope is real. Even those far from faith can cry out and be met with love. He also counsels that hell, as he experienced it, is less a fiery dungeon and more a state of separation and selfishness, a self-chosen isolation from love. Storm does not claim his story proves life after death to skeptics. "I can only tell you what happened to me," he says, "but for him there is no going back. I died an atheist," he has said, "and I came back a believer in a God of infinite love." If this story moved you or gave you something to think about, hit that like and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. And remember, every moment is a chance to choose love.